Peter Schrager has released his only mock draft. He does one every single year. And anybody that knows anything about Peter Schrager knows that he is locked into the NFL. He's someone that's track record in terms of understanding not necessarily which teams are going to take what player, but he's got a really good idea of which players will be going in the first round. And a lot of the times, if he doesn't get the player right, he usually does get the position. So that's why this is the biggest mock draft of them all, in my opinion, when it comes to getting maybe a solid glimpse into what will happen on round one of the NFL draft tomorrow night. What's poppin', everybody? Your boy Mark here, Marcky Sports. If you love Denver sports and if you love the NFL draft, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I am a little bit pissed currently as I just witnessed a debacle from the Colorado Avalanche again in overtime. We'll make a separate video and we'll talk about all that kind of nonsense later. But let's get right in to Mr. Peter Schrager, because I think that's a good idea. All right, so to start it off, we don't got to spend too much time on the first few picks. Cam Ward, he's obviously going to Tennessee. You got to pay $20,000 in order to get $100 in return for your money. That is what the current odds are. Cam Ward is going there, and that's pretty much a lock. And Travis Hunter going to the Browns. This seems to be the latest buzz. It seems like it's almost a foregone conclusion that the Cleveland Browns are going to take Travis Hunter. Unfortunate for Travis Hunter, somebody that I love, a player that I think is so unbelievably incredible. And yeah, I hope a team trades up to take him because I don't want to see him just rot in Cleveland for the first 4 to 5 years of his rookie contract before he's ultimately going to want to leave. But, you can't knock it. It's a great pick. He's the best player in this draft. He should go number 2. He deserves to go number 2. Number 3, the Giants going Abdul Carter. And now this would obviously be a very Giants thing to do, right? Not to say Abdul Carter is a bad player. He's an unbelievable pass rusher, and he can be a very impactful player, but the New York Giants just don't seem to get it. They don't seem to understand. They had an opportunity to take one of 6 very good quarterbacks last year. They decided to pass. They decided to win the last game of the season meaningless. Now they put themselves in 3. And by all accounts, it doesn't look like they're going to draft Shador Sanders. And listen, you could draft Abdul Carter. Unless you got a quarterback, nothing else matters. And they do not have a quarterback. In fact, they've got 2 bad ones. So cool. Good job, New York Giants. Y'all got Abdul Carter. Great player. But should the fan base really give a shit? Let's be honest. They're just, yeah, it is what it is. But anyways, I guess, Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, they're out after the season anyway. So I guess it really, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. Have the new regime pick their quarterback and move forward. Will Campbell getting a lot of buzz. I never really believed the whole idea of he's got a little bit short arms. He's going to drop. Never really bought into that, to be honest with you. Will Campbell's a very good player. He can play all across their offensive line. And he's going to allow for New England to build out this offense the way that, Mike Vrabel wants to build it. I think he's a very good player. I think this is a very solid pick, and it's something that makes a ton of sense. This is something that is not necessarily a surprise anymore over the past couple of days, but it's kind of a surprise to me in general. It seems like almost a foregone conclusion that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to trade Ashton Jeanty. That makes the ripple effect of that is going to be very interesting, right? What's going to happen with Travis Etienne, Tanks Bigsby, are one of those guys available for trade? They should be. Are both of them? Going to be very interesting for some very running back needy team like my Denver Broncos. But I will say Ashton Jeanty would be a problem in Jacksonville. I would love to see it, mainly because I don't have to worry about facing him twice a year when he's with the Raiders. Do I think it's a good pick for the Jaguars? I don't think taking any running back in the top 5 is a good value pick, but it's going to be really interesting to see just how dynamic he's going to be in an offense that I think is pretty underrated. And I think it's going to be actually really good next year under Liam Cohen and some, new leadership there because they are in desperate need of that. So, man, Ashton Jeanty, Brian Thomas Jr., Trevor Lawrence, it's going to be a problem out there, man. It's going to be a big, big issue out there in Jacksonville, and I am looking forward to seeing that. Las Vegas Raiders, he has them taking Armand Membu. Now, I can absolutely see this happening. I think Peter Schrager is onto something here. This is the kind of player and the kind of pick that Pete Carroll would absolutely make. I never really believed the whole Ashton Genty to the Vegas Raiders hype, because just look at what Pete Carroll, does, how he builds his team. He builds his team from the inside out. The Raiders did put they got a couple of resources there on their offensive line, but it is still not nearly good enough to make any running back be very good. Armand Membu is a very good pick for them. He can be a bona fide stud at right tackle. He can play inside, and I think he's even has the ability to play left tackle. He's going to be a really good player for them. And as much as I hate to admit it, I think it'd be a home run pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 7, the New York Jets taking Tyler Warren. This is something I think I did in one of my most recent mock draft. It just makes a lot of sense. He's a really good weapon, someone that is perfect fit for the type of offense that I think that they're going to be running, but not just that, specifically for Justin Fields. He needs a player like Tyler Warren, a security blanket, a bona fide playmaker, someone that can just get open and be reliable for him in the pass game. And I think Tyler Warren is exactly that. I think he'd be a great fit there in New York. I really like that pick for him. At 7, I think the value is really solid. Carolina, everybody and their mom has kind of been mocking them to take Jalen Carter, linebacker here. I think Carolina is going to try very, very hard to trade out of this pick if they possibly can, because there's probably a lot of guys that they like. But ultimately, if they don't, Jalen Walker certainly fits. He's just a really, really good player. He can play off-ball linebacker in specific packages, but he's an elite pass rusher. Apparently, he's been passing all the tests and interviews with absolute flying colors. I think he's a really good player, man. And I think Ejiro Evero will have a really fun time getting creative. And, Carolina needs as much help on defense as they possibly can. He is a day one starter, no doubt about it. So love Jalen Walker. I think he's one of the best players in this draft personally. Number 9 is kind of a surprise, but it's kind of not a surprise because it's the New Orleans Saints. And the New Orleans Saints always do things that just are random as hell. Mykel Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia. Interesting here. Obviously, New Orleans can go a lot way. If they were smart and they wanted to do something that was actually like a legitimate pick for them, they would draft Shador Sanders at 9, or they would trade up to get Shador Sanders. I don't really have too much opinions on Mykel Williams. I mean, I think he's got crazy upside. I think he's a good pass rusher. I think he could be really good for the Saints. It's interesting though, because at one point he was like a very, very, very heavy underdog to go to New Orleans. And then once this mock draft came out, he's still the lowest odds of all the players that they show, but it's at plus 300, which really shows that nobody knows what the hell the New Orleans Saints are going to do, not even Vegas. But he did shoot up quite a bit, and that is interesting because they're weighing in maybe what a lot of these insiders are hearing. It's just weird. It's weird that a team that has so much issues from a roster standpoint, from the cap management standpoint, a lack of a direction. Derek Carr might not even be healthy to play this season. If he was, he should be gone anyways. And yet they're just punting on quarterback again, and they're going with an edge rusher. I mean, I guess if you're going to do it, edge rusher is one of those positions, but just a very confusing franchise in New Orleans. I'm sure Sean Payton is probably thrilled to be out of that shit show of a place. All right, we got our first projected trade, and this I love because I think that he hears a lot of buzz of like maybe these teams do like to trade up. Interesting because he's got the Colts trading up to number 10 from 14 to take Colston Loveland, which makes a lot of sense. They need a tight end. Tyler Warren being off in this situation. I can see both tight ends going top 10. I think that they're both top 10 players personally in this draft. But Daniel Jeremiah had the Broncos trading up to get Loveland, and I think the trade was with the Dolphins. So there's some moving pieces here. There's obviously some buzz out there and some legitimate sources saying that there's going to be trades. And I think that there absolutely will be. I think it might be one of the most amount of trades that we've seen in a first round, in my opinion. Really because it's one of those drafts where it's like some teams are going to love guys, other teams are not, and they're going to want to go up there and they're going to want to get them. So yeah, I'm all about it. I think it's a really, really good pick for him. So they trade up. Does he say, the Colts give up number 14 and 80. All right. So they give up a third rounder to move up 4 spots. Good value. I can see, I could get behind that if you really love someone. And Colson Loveland is a stud, man. He's going to be really good for Anthony Richardson in the first 4 games that he plays. And then ultimately Daniel Jones will take over and he'll be good with them. And then they'll move on. They'll finally figure the quarterback situation out. But at least at that point, they will have a very good tight end, to be able to go out there and ball out for him. At number 11, he's got the San Francisco 49ers going with Walter Nolan. I think this is a pick that makes so much sense. I'm not a big Walter Nolan fan, but I could see Robert Saleh drooling over a player like him, feeling like he can get him into the system, coach him up to a specific, vision that he's got for him, and he would be a stud for San Francisco. So, although I'm not the biggest fan of the player, I think that this is one of those fits that make a lot of sense. And he says something interesting. I'd be shocked if Nolan fell out of the top 15 at this point. There's a lot of buzz about Walter Nolan, man. So it doesn't really matter what I think about him or what anybody else does. That is legitimate. And it's a consistent thing that you're hearing from a lot of the insiders that are very locked in. If he's going to go top 15, I really like the fit for him in San Francisco. I think it makes a lot of sense. Number 12 is very shocking. I didn't really look in this draft in depth. I just looked at what he chose for the Broncos. And I said, I'm going to do a react to it and kind of do it organically. And I did not know that he has Tyler Booker going to the Dallas Cowboys. He's a hell of a guard. He's obviously hearing a lot of buzz that Booker can go in the first round, which is something that kind of makes sense to me because you hear all the most unbelievable things about the player. He's a dominant guard, phenomenal leader, unbelievable work ethic, played at a huge program in Alabama. It makes a lot of sense. 12, I think, is a little bit rich, strictly because it's the guard position. But the Dallas Cowboys, that's just kind of what they do. They need to rebuild their offensive line. I think them getting back to their identity of being a dominant offensive line team that can win in the trenches served them well until they got to the playoffs, of course. But it's a good way to build a team. It's not going to be the sexiest pick. The value might not be the greatest, but it's a hell of a pick. And it also tells me that if they really value Tyler Booker that high, they would be really interested in trading back if a team is looking to trade up for whatever reason, because they could get Tyler Booker a little bit later in the draft, but in the first. But you know what? It is what it is. Take your boy if you like him. I think he's a very good player, and you really can't go wrong with Tyler Booker at guard. You really just can't. He's a very high floor prospect, in my opinion. And he's got Mason Graham falling. And this is something that you're seeing. I think Daniel Jeremiah had Mason Graham falling. A lot of buzz that you hear from guys that cover the draft and saying, my sources are saying this. When you start to hear consistencies, that is typically legit, and it's not just smoke. And Mason Graham falling to 13 to the Miami Dolphins is unbelievable value for them. I think he's such a good player. He should be a top 10 player, top 5 player in this draft, to be honest with you. So the Miami Dolphins getting him at 13 would be a very big win for them, even if he's not necessarily the biggest need for him. But also, here's another thing. If Mason Graham does fall, there will be a team. There will 100% be a team that trades up probably a pretty substantial amount to be able to get him, in my opinion. I just think he's that good. But in this draft, in this mock draft, I mean, shit, Mason Graham, Dolphins got a really good one, and they could use a player like him to really make them tough again. Chicago Bears are now on the clock at pick 14. They traded back from pick 10 with the Indianapolis Colts, and they're taking Kelvin Banks Jr. And guys, get on the Kelvin Banks Jr. hype train. Just like Mason Graham falling, just like you hear about Walter Nolan being a bona fide top 15 pick, people are saying Kelvin Banks is also going to be a top 15 pick, someone that teams highly, highly covet. It actually makes sense. He's a really good player. He's a 3-year starter been very productive with a good program in Texas. He's got all the measurables. He really checks off a lot of the boxes. I never really realized why people were as low on him as I thought, but it would be a really great and solid pick for the Bears if they decided to continue to build out the offensive line as much as they could. Even though they did a lot in free agency, they continue to build out and protect Caleb Williams, who was just killed last year, and Ben Johnson. That's how they built it in Detroit. I can see them continuing that. I think it's a really good pick for the Chicago Bears. And then them being able to pick up an additional 4th and still come out with a really good tackle, or an additional 3rd-round pick, I mean. Yeah, that's a big win for them. He's got Jihad Campbell going to the Falcons. We have seen this. I think that this is a really, really good fit for a lot of different reasons, because I think he's someone that is very good. I think he's somebody that the injury concern is not going to be as big of a deal as people are making it. They're saying the shoulder is going to make him fall out of the first. I think it's nonsense. He's a very good off-ball linebacker player. I don't think it's the best fit for the Falcons because they need pure pass rushers. He can give you some pass rushing production on like blitzes and stuff, but otherwise, I think he fits the system very, very well there for New Orleans. And I love Jihad Campbell. I think he's awesome. He's got Jadeveon Baron going number 16 to the Cardinals. I would be a little bit surprised. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if he was available at 15. I wouldn't be surprised if he was picked a lot higher. I wouldn't be surprised if he was picked inside the top 7. Just because I think he's so good. And corners are very highly touted in the NFL, especially guys that can play inside and guys that can play outside. But really good pick for the Cardinals. They've been doing a lot of work on defensive players, specifically defensive linemen and corners. Jadeveon Baron will be a home run hit for him. I really like that. All right, let's go over to Mike Green for the Cincinnati Bengals. This would be a good pick. It's a very high risk, high reward type of a pick with Mike Green, just with some of the off the field stuff. An incredibly pure pass rusher. They could use it. If they did this, it'd be interesting to see what they did with Trey Hendrickson. Different players, they play, different positions, but it would be a really good tandem. Like if they found a way to keep Trey Hendrickson, him and Mike Green would really help that defense get a lot of pressure and become a lot better. I actually really love that pick for the Bengals, and I think it would be really solid. He's got Gray Zabel going to the Seahawks. I think it's a great fit. Makes a lot of sense. It's a huge need for him. He's a phenomenal player. There's some people that are cooling off on that, but it could just be Gray Zabel to the Seahawks fatigue. I never really bought into the whole like Colston Loveland and Mecha Ibuka hype. Doesn't really seem to make sense. Ted McMillan would, who ends up going next pick to Tampa Bay. But Gray Zabel is just the smart move and the smart pick for the Seattle Seahawks, given how they're trying to build out this roster with Sam Darnold and some of the playmakers that they have now on offense after the DK Metcalf trade. It would make sense if they went in a different position, a different direction here, and then they addressed the interior offensive line in the second round because they have 2 second-round picks. But I would not hate it. I think Gray Zabel is very, very good. I think he helps them out, and just the fact that he can play all across that offensive line is huge. And they are desperate for interior offensive linemen, just absolutely desperate. Ted McMillan falling is not necessarily surprising. I think that's kind of been the buzz around the NFL. But going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is actually really interesting. And it's like, man, they got Mike Evans, they got Chris Godwin, who they just signed, they got Jaylen McMillan, who I think is ready to overtake for Mike Evans whenever he decides to kind of hang it up or move on. But he's still a very productive player. Those are 3 really good receivers, and them adding Ted McMillan seems like a little bit of a waste. I get it. I mean, if you really feel like Mike Evans has got a year or 2 left, maybe you're getting ahead of it, fine. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the situation is with Mike Evans, to be honest with you. And it'd be interesting. I think it'd be a really good situation for Ted to go there. He doesn't have to be the main guy right away. He can kind of sit back and learn from one of the best receivers over the last decade, a true professional. Just figure out how to work, how to, be a professional NFL wide receiver. So it'd be a really good situation for him. But for the Bucs, I think it would be an average pick. This would be probably my dream scenario at this point when I go through all of my different situations. If you're saying the Broncos are just going to pick one player and they're going to do it at pick 20, Mecha Ibuka should be the guy. He checks every single box that you want from a talent standpoint, from a player, from the kind of person that he is, the kind of leader, type of work ethic.
by far and away the highest floor of any player. I was saying it on the live stream earlier. If I had to bet money that one of these players is guaranteed to have like a really solid NFL career. He might not be an all-pro, but he's going to be a really solid player. It would be a Mecha Ibuka in this draft. I think his floor is incredibly high. The reason he's falling a little bit is because people say, what's the ceiling going to be like? I think the ceiling is going to be really great. I think he's a phenomenal player. And then what he brings to a Sean Payton offense fits like a glove. I would love everything about this. And you see it here, bar none. Ibuka is the most universally well-liked prospect in this draft. Smart, reliable, sure-handed, could be a 10-year captain, and he's compared to former Buckeyes legend Terry McLaurin. Yep, this could be another no-brainer for Sean Payton and George Payton. I could not agree more. I would be so thrilled with this situation. He's got Shador Sanders falling all the way to number 21 of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I think Shador Sanders probably will ultimately go to Pittsburgh. I don't know if they're just going to sit back and wait for him. There might be other teams really trying to get back up to get him if that's the case. But I don't get it. I really do believe in my heart that when it's all said and done, Shador Sanders is going to go in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5. It's typically what happens with quarterbacks. I think that there's just a lot of hate on him, a lot of smoke around him. It's going to be really interesting because he's got a wide range of possibilities. Obviously, I can see this happening based off of just reports that you hear. But it's tough for me because like my whole logic is, dude, if you're going to take a quarterback at 21, why the hell wouldn't you trade up, ensure you got him, commit to him, show that commitment, and do it that way? Because like if you obviously love him, you want to ensure that you get him, so you want to move him. You're not just going to sit back and chill. I don't know. That's kind of always been my logic because it shows me that like you didn't really love him that much. He kind of fell into your lap, so you're happy about it. But anyways, I think that would be a really good situation for Shador. I think the Steelers obviously absolutely need him. He'd fit really well there. He would fit really well, and he wouldn't have as much pressure right off the gate. And he'd be going to a solid franchise, and it would be the best quarterback that Pittsburgh has selected in the draft. Obviously, since Ben Roethlisberger, he'd be the best quarterback they've had by far and away since Ben Roethlisberger. He'd be a really nice fit there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love that. Kenneth Grant going to the Chargers would make a ton of sense. The Michigan ties. He's a perfect player for what John Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers want to do. He's a really, really, really good player. Very good run stuffer. Tough-minded. I think he's fantastic. And it would be a really good fit for the Los Angeles Chargers. Matthew Golden has fallen a little bit. It's not out of character for Green Bay to take a receiver in round 1. They haven't done it since 2002. So it is very out of character for them. But in this scenario, Golden slides to them, and they would be so incredibly stupid to pass up on a talent like Matthew Golden. I think he's the best receiver in this draft. Obviously, if not including Travis Hunter, of course. He's fantastic. Yes, he's not necessarily built like this big perimeter X receiver, but he'd be day one the best receiver that the Green Bay Packers have. A very good piece to the type of offense that they run there with Matt LaFleur. I love that pick for the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think he's really good. Number 24, Omar Hampton going to the Vikings. I've told y'all before, I'm not a big proponent of taking a running back in the first round, but this is a hell of a fit for the Vikings because Omar Hampton is a perfect pick to go in tandem with Aaron Jones there in Minnesota. They obviously have J.J. McCarthy, playing really for the first time, obviously this upcoming season, having a dominant run game and being able to have a, clock controlling type of an offense where you can be physical is going to be imperative to help J.J. McCarthy. This would be a home run pick for them, in my opinion. Omar Hampton and Aaron Jones would be a very, very good tandem. And they've got a lot of talent on offense around J.J. McCarthy already. And their defense, obviously, with Brian Flores has shown that they can ball the hell out. He's got Donovan Jackson going number 25 to the Houston Texans. Very interesting. I think Donovan Jackson is worthy of a first-round pick. What he did in Ohio State for that team was pretty remarkable, going from playing guard to replacing Josh Simmons at tackle and playing very well all the way to the national championship. It certainly makes sense. I don't know if they'll necessarily go with Donovan Jackson, but Houston, I think, will go with an offensive lineman, after they kind of are revamping the way that they're constructing the roster, right? Love Donovan Jackson. I love Donovan Jackson for the Texans. The versatility is going to be big, and so if they need him to tackle, he's obviously proven that he can play there. But he could be really good on the inside protecting CJ Stroud, and they need that. CJ Stroud needs to have a better offensive line in front of them. Donovan Jackson does that. I can't even hate on the pick. I think it's really good. And this is where it gets extremely interesting, as he has another projected trade. He has the Giants jumping back into the top of the first round. So maybe I'll eat my words from what I said prior. And trading with the Los Angeles Chargers for pick number 26. They gave up number 34 and 99 to move up to 26. That would be a really good, that'd be a really good value for them. I mean, doesn't seem like they're giving up too much to go up there and get Jackson Dart. Interesting. Not really a big Jackson Dart fan, but listen, if they love him and they wanted to get their quarterback, cool. Like, they went up there and they did it. So kudos to the Giants for doing that. And that would actually make a lot of sense. Then now, now you look at their draft, they're coming out of the first round with Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter. You can get behind that. They need to figure out a quarterback, a franchise future quarterback. And even if Jackson Dart doesn't play a lot in his rookie season, which I don't think he should, if he shows those flashes and people within the organization are like, man, we got a good one, that's going to be huge for the Giants. And it could really save Brian Daboll's job and Joe Shane's job as well. So very, very good move, especially for if that was realistically the type of compensation they gave up. I love that. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle, going to the Baltimore Ravens. Interesting. Probably the first time I've ever seen this, and I like it. I like it a lot. I think the Ravens would gladly take Josh Simmons and say, you know what, take your time with the injury. They don't need him to play right away, but they know that they've got a very, very, very good offensive tackle for future years to come. I think I love it. I think it's a really good pick for him. And the Baltimore Ravens just have a great history of making good picks. And this would definitely be another one to add to their resume. That would be really interesting. And I'd be happy that he went to Baltimore rather than Kansas City. No doubt about that as a Bronco fan. All right, Will Johnson. Look at the Will Johnson fall. You kind of been hearing some buzz about that. And here it is. Will Johnson going to the Detroit Lions. This would probably, in a couple of years, we might look back and say that was the steal of the draft, getting a corner like Will Johnson with the skill set that he's got to go to Detroit. He's going to be really good. I think that this is a very good pick for him. He said that Johnson's stock has slipped a bit. He had a foot injury last season. It was inconsistent for the Wolverines. And then he sat out because of a hamstring injury. So there is some medicals. Those are things we obviously won't really find out until after the draft. But, man, that's a really good pick for the Lions to be able to add somebody with that kind of talent. Opposite of Terrion Arnold. I like that for the Lions. And I like that for Will Johnson. Staying there in Michigan. He's joining a really, really good franchise, a team that is ready to win now. So I like that. Shamar Stewart going to the Commanders. I think this is another one that I had mocked as well, and it's because it makes a lot of sense. Dan Quinn seems like he's the kind of coach that will bet on upside versus production and feeling like he can get the most out of his players. Shamar Stewart is exactly that. Not a very productive player in college. He was disruptive, at times, but he's got stupid amounts of talent. And I think it'd be a really intriguing pick for the Washington Commanders, because this could be one of those where, man, it could be a dud, but if he hits, it could be all pro level of a hit for the Washington Commanders. Shamar Stewart, it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up on draft night. I'm excited about that. He's got Malachi Starks going to the Bills. Another player, surprisingly, falling quite a bit. At one point, he was kind of a consensus top 15 guy. They got him going here to Buffalo. I think it's a really great pick for Buffalo. They get a phenomenal player on the back end of their defense. He played safety and nickel, so that kind of versatility is good. The Buffalo Bills could use more dogs on the back end of their secondary. I like their linebackers with Matt Milano. I think the defensive line is really, really stout. They're obviously very good against the run. They're good enough at rushing the passer. Malachi Starks could really be that missing chess piece for the Bills to hopefully at some point in the near future take them to the next level and get them to a Super Bowl. So I have a soft spot in my heart for the Bills, man. I really do like the Bills, and this would be a very good pick for them. Kansas City Chiefs taking James Pierce, the edge rusher from Tennessee. Ooh. James Pierce is one of those guys that people seem to really love or really hate. He's got all the talent in the world. Kansas City will figure out a way to maximize that. It would be a really scary pick. Being a Bronco fan, I think it'd be a really good pick for them. They could get better. They could use help on the edge to get after the quarterback. They also could use a lot of help on that offensive line. They could address that, a little bit later in the draft, I suppose. Peter Schrager hasn't had a lot of like head scratchers in this draft. Everything I feel like is like, man, great pick. God, I love that. That makes a lot of sense. This one is one of those where it just seems a little bit far-fetched, but just because of like the player and the position and kind of where the Chiefs are at. But yeah, I mean, he says it. James Pierce has double-digit sack potential and a ton of upside, though most of them having sliding into the second round. Getting him at 31, he could be a really good value pick for him if he ends up hitting. And then I love this. Maxwell Hairston sneaking into the last pick of the first round to the Philadelphia Eagles. I could see the Philadelphia Eagles doing that. Whatever the Philadelphia Eagles end up doing is probably going to be a really good pick. They've got an amazing history with Howie Roseman running that team. Hairston's a very good player with ridiculous traits, ridiculous talent. And you let Vic Fangio coach him up, and he doesn't have to be a star or even a starter early on in his career. He could become one hell of a player for him. So I love it, man. Peter Schrager coming through with a wonderful, wonderful mock draft. I liked it a lot. Obviously, I'm thrilled, and I think it's a home run pick for my Denver Broncos, taking a Mecha Ibuka at 20. Some of my other favorite picks, man, like things that I really like. I love Tyler Warren at 7 to the Jets. I really like Armand Mambu at 6 to the Raiders. I think those are all really good picks. The Colts trading up to get Loveland. If they ultimately end up with Loveland, I think that's a really good pick. But another one that I really liked that I thought was awesome are these two, pick 16 and 17. Jahdae Barron, phenomenal player, great value going to the Cardinals. They can certainly use that. And then Mike Green teaming him up with Trey Hendrickson and trying to help spur that defense along. That's the way to do it. Get guys that can get after the quarterback. Mike Green might be the best pure edge rusher in this class. So crazy good stuff, man. I love it. What do you guys think below about Peter Schrager's mock? I cannot wait until the draft in less than 24 hours. In fact, in 24 hours, we will know. We will know what happened in this first round. We will know what all of our teams did, and we can start to put some of the puzzle pieces together and get some of the answers to the questions that we've been trying to get for a long, long time. I'm excited. Let me know what you guys think below in the comments. Till then, y'all have a wonderful night, man. Spend time with those that you love the most, and peace out.